Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Robert Dailey, owner at Dailey Woodworks, where we build custom furniture. And on this channel, I kind of show you the how I build furniture and even teach you a few tips and tricks. Today we're going to build this nightstand. And what I'm going to show you through mostly time-lapse footage is the building of this piece in kind of the most efficient way possible. I'm building two of these, so I'm going to try to combine everything I'm doing to have as much glued up as once as I can to work with my limited clamps. This is part of my modern shaker style furniture suite. There is going to be a set of plans for this, the dresser I made in the video before this at some point. And then I'm going to keep expanding this line all the way till I have a full collection of furniture that's going to be kind of my signature piece, I guess. So I'm going to start with gluing up the top and this mid section right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to glue up a full 8-foot section because it's 22 inches. And then I'll cut it down to my plank size to that. That way I can glue up all 4 of these pieces at one time and save that time on the glue up. Once I've selected my lumber, it's time to edge joint it and then finish ripping it on the table saw. Then going back and putting dominoes in to glue it up. Because I am cutting up this larger plank later on, I wanted to mark where all my dominoes went instead of using the layout jig. That way I wouldn't cut into a domino and it wouldn't be visible once, all the pieces were cut to size. Gluing up the top was pretty standard, just kind of like I always do with my wall-mounted clamps, which gets it out of the way so I can move on to the next task. And that was making the legs. Whenever I make legs, I rip the boards oversized and then laminate them together. That way, whenever I pull them out of the clamps, I can plane them down to the final size. Also make them about 1 inch longer than the finished length as well. For such a small nightstand, there was a surprising amount of glue ups on this project. So here I am just laying out my glue up. Here I am wasting time on the phone, which I do way too much of. It's very important when you do this that you not glue between each leg. So far I've been lucky and not done that, but I can imagine if you accidentally put glue where you don't want it, then you have a really big hunk and you're going to have problems later. I'm keeping it as flat as I can and clamping it together so hopefully it won't move, and then I just hammered it flat and let it sit there for about 15-20 minutes on the workbench to keep it flat, and then once that glue had tacked up, I just moved it out of the way. Now we're just moving on to building the small little face frame for the front of the nightstand that will hold the drawer. Just pocket screws on that. Have my little helper out there with me. She wasn't feeling good this day, if I remember right, and so she was just kind of not whiny, but just not feeling good. So she hung out with me for a little bit. Most of the time I'll put them over my office chair and let her color and stuff. I had to cut into an entire sheet of 3/4 inch plywood for that one rip. So I really need to come up with a more efficient material usage here, but I like using good quality plywood for this because then you can more easily join it together and not have to worry as much about expansion and contraction. For stain grade work, I really like to pre-sand everything to the final grit before assembly. This makes any touch-up sanding a lot easier later on, and I think the stain will take a little bit better if you can sand everything without, bumping your sander up against another edge, because there's a lot of 90-degree angles and intersecting joints on this project. Now it's time to start processing the legs. Once I get it out of the clamps and make sure I have everything broke apart, I then just start cleaning it up. Here I'm using my hand plane, and you see I'm sharpening it up right now. If you can't shave with it, it's not sharp, so I kind of just touch it up for every use. And this, I'm just plowing the glue off. I'm getting it nice and flat. Again, this is about an 1/8 inch over size, so I have plenty of material to take off. And I'm doing them all together, and that helps me keep it all flat. Once I get kind of to 90-degree or a 90-degree corner, I can then take it over to the table saw and just rip it to size. Nice thing about having a nice big 3 horsepower table saw is you can cut right through, 2 inches of red oak, no problem. These legs ended up being 1.5 inches though. Once everything is cut to size, I then clamp them all back together and sand it. By sanding them together, I don't risk rounding over an edge. I don't risk sanding one more than the other, and this helps me stay consistent because I don't have a big drum sander. I do want one, so if you own a drum sander manufacturing company and you want to sponsor me, that'd be awesome. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I will sell out for really expensive tools. Now I'm moving over to assembly, and I'm just using scrap wood to space everything out, and then I'm going to connect this with dominoes. And I said this in the dresser video that if you don't have a domino, there's no reason you can't do this project. The face frame on the edge is about 1 inch, so you can easily pre-drill through that and just drive a screw to connect it. You can use dowels, you can use biscuits, you can probably run a pocket screw in there. I don't think there's enough room for a pocket screw, but there's plenty of ways to do this without a Festool domino. I just like using it, and I have it because this is what I do all day, every day. But if you're a hobbyist, you don't have to have a domino to make good furniture. Assembly goes just like this, and where those clamps are right now is where you could just run a screw in to assemble it. Dominoes do definitely help with alignment though, and pocket screws kind of can twist sometimes if you're not super careful. But you can see for this bottom rail, I'm just pocket screwing that in place because there's no reason not to. For this part, I did actually mill a domino in there. I'm not showing it, and it's not really showing up there. But I put a couple of dominoes in for alignment as well, and that just helped align things, and then the pocket screws act as the clamp, so you kind of have the best of both worlds right there. So as you can see here, I have a clamp that's kind of squeezing these legs together. Um, and that's something I want to point out with woodworking is nothing is ever 100% perfect. No matter how well you have your tools dialed in, wood is an organic material that responds to the humidity in the air and the temperature of the day, so it's going to move a little bit, and so having those clamps around to kind of aid and push things together when they need to get pushed together definitely helps. What I'm doing now is I'm basically cutting a bunch of triangles to kind of hold this thing square and give me something to mount my bottom shelf and my top to. This also will force the entire unit square if it's not perfectly square already. Um, Again, I try to make everything as square as possible, but this is where I really focus on squaring it up and forcing it into squareness. Because there's, again, you're gonna have that flex. You're gonna have that saw blade that wasn't quite on the same part of the pencil line as the cut before, and that's okay. One thing I didn't get any footage of are my faux side panels. So what I did here is I just ripped down some materials about 3/8 of an inch thick and then used my pin nailer to tack it on so it had that same frame and panel look. Here it is with stain we used Minwax Carbon Black, no, Minwax Truce Black stain. Here's my drawers. I have plenty of videos on making drawers. And here is the finished project. I do have a set of plans on my website. I have a link in the description and the pinned comment below. Be sure to go to daileywoodworks.com to order your custom furniture, or the recreationalwoodworker.com for plans, tutorials, how-tos, and all that kind of stuff. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.